Intimacy of touch with Moon in Pisces. With the Moon in Pisces, touch is more than physical, it's emotional atmosphere. You don't just feel a hand on your skin, you feel the intention behind it, the unsaid emotion woven through it, the ripple it sends through your entire field of being. You don't separate body from soul. To touch you is to enter your emotional world, and your moon doesn't open that door lightly. You receive through vibration, not just contact. If the energy isn't right, your body may seem receptive while your spirit quietly floats away. You crave touch that feels gentle, attuned, and spiritually clean. Aggressive, distracted, or emotionally clouded contact doesn't just fail to soothe. It can feel invasive, even painful. You need time to feel safe inside someone else's presence. Once you do, touch becomes your preferred language for comfort and closeness. You want to dissolve into someone's arms, not to disappear, but to experience oneness in the only way you trust, silently, skin to skin, heart to heart. Physical affection, for you, is a dissolving boundary, a slow merging. You don't thrive on quick touches or rushed gestures. You want slowness, stillness, a hand on your back that lingers for a full breath, a quiet presence next to you in bed that doesn't need to move or talk. When someone touches you with care and intention, it pulls your energy back into your body. It reminds you that the world isn't just noise, it can also be refuge. But your sensitivity also makes you highly susceptible to emotional overwhelm through the body. If someone touches you while they're upset, angry, or emotionally dissonant, you absorb it. You may find yourself feeling strange or heavy without knowing why. This is why your moon needs boundaries around physical intimacy, even if you rarely voice them. Touch must be emotionally aligned. It must be clean. If not, your instinct is to subtly drift, disappear, or emotionally disassociate. You give physical affection freely when you feel safe, but you also give it as a way to soothe, to connect, to dissolve conflict. Sometimes you reach for someone not because you're open, but because you're trying to repair the space between you. You touch to say what you can't express in words, but when that touch isn't met, or when it's misread, it wounds you in quiet, invisible ways. You won't always say it hurts, but you will retreat. Your moon is slow to anger, but quick to bruise. If someone touches you carelessly or pulls away when you're trying to connect, it can feel like abandonment, even if you intellectually know it isn't. You don't just want to be held, you want to be received emotionally in the act. If someone holds you physically, but stays emotionally distant, it's worse than not being touched at all. And yet, paradoxically, you often don't speak your needs aloud. You may expect your partner to intuit when you need closeness, when you want space, when you're holding emotional tension in your shoulders that only a certain kind of embrace could release. If they don't sense it, you might feel quietly unloved, even if they had no idea what was needed. Your moon is psychic, but that doesn't mean others are. To deepen this intimacy, give your partner guidance. Say, I love when you hold me without speaking. Say, when I'm overwhelmed, I don't need words, I just need your hand in mine. These requests don't make you demanding, they make you accessible. They show someone how to enter your emotional frequency with touch that heals, not overwhelms. And let yourself be touched even when you don't feel fully together, even when you're sad, tired, or uncertain. Let someone hold your mess, not just your mysticism. Your softness doesn't need to be polished to be lovable. You don't have to vanish into touch. You can arrive in it. Because when touch becomes a sanctuary instead of a transaction, your Pisces moon finds what it's always longed for: closeness that transcends language. Physical presence that melts defenses without asking you to explain. A quiet embrace that says, you're safe here, as you are. You don't have to hold the whole world. Just let go and let me hold you. Intimacy of sensate with moon in Pisces. With the moon in Pisces, your senses are doorways to the divine. You don't just see, hear, or touch, you absorb. The flicker of candlelight, the hush of music, the scent of someone's skin, the softness of their voice, these impressions don't land lightly. They seep into you, blur into emotion, and become indistinguishable from memory. You live in a sensory world where everything has emotional tone. The environment around you is the intimacy. If it doesn't feel right, you can't relax, even if nothing's technically wrong. Your moon doesn't process love through logic. It filters it through atmosphere. If the room feels chaotic, if the sound is harsh, if the lighting is cold, you struggle to settle. Your body knows long before your words do. You may not always articulate it, but your entire emotional state can shift from a misplaced tone, an offhand look, or a scent that triggers something buried. People who love you must learn this. To care for your senses is to care for your soul. You long for a kind of sensory devotion, not excess, not grand romance, just intention. A gentle voice at the right moment, the smell of something familiar cooking in the kitchen, a bath drawn with silence. You want to feel like someone is paying attention to the texture of your world, not just your emotions. When the sensory field is aligned, you soften instantly. You don't need explanation, you just need tone. But your sensitivity can also overwhelm you. You can become flooded by other people's emotions, their perfume, the energy of a crowded room, or even your own chaotic thoughts mirrored in the wrong lighting. When too much enters your field at once, you begin to float out of your body. You may become vague, distant, or dreamy, not because you don't care, but because your senses have exceeded their threshold. Withdrawal for you is often a way to regulate, not to disconnect. You are highly receptive to the energetic undercurrents of others. A partner might not say a word, but you feel their restlessness in the way they stir their coffee. You sense grief in the way they open a drawer. These impressions are not imagined, they are real to your nervous system. This is why you crave a partner who's energetically present, not just physically near. Someone who inhabits the space with quiet awareness. Your sensuality is nuanced and spiritual. Touch, sound, scent, they all become poetry when love is present. But you can't separate the physical from the emotional. If someone touches you without care, the entire moment unravels. If they kiss you but their energy is distracted, your body might yield, but your heart won't open. Your moon requires coherence. What they do and what they feel must align. You also give sensory love in subtle, often invisible ways. You'll leave a room softly lit. Curate a playlist that speaks what you can't say. Stir tea just right, fold a shirt with tenderness. You communicate your affection by shaping the environment to soothe, inspire, and support. But when this isn't noticed, or worse, dismissed as unnecessary, you may feel unappreciated without knowing how to name it. You don't often ask for sensory care directly because your love language is intuitive. You hope your partner will simply feel what you need, but not everyone is wired the way you are. And when your subtle signals go unanswered, you may start to doubt your connection, not realizing the gap is not in love, but in translation. To deepen this intimacy, speak the sensory language your moon longs to receive. Say, soft lighting calms me. Say, I feel closer to you when the room feels sacred. Say, your voice changes the way I feel inside my body. These aren't indulgences, they're essential ingredients in how you process care. Because when the senses are honored not as decoration, but as pathways, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it dreams of. Love that wraps around you like a warm breeze, connection that hums below the surface, and presence that speaks in color, sound, scent, and texture. A love that doesn't just touch your skin, but lingers in your soul. Intimacy of kindness with moon in Pisces. Kindness for your Pisces moon is not about politeness, it's about attunement. You are profoundly shaped by the emotional currents around you, and the smallest acts of cruelty, carelessness, sarcasm, indifference, can wound you more deeply than others may realize. You may not react outwardly, but your moon absorbs it, stores it, turns it into a soft ache you carry alone. To you, kindness is oxygen, invisible, vital, and immediately felt when it's missing. You don't need grand gestures. You need presence. Someone who remembers the texture of your silence, who asks how you slept, not out of routine, but because they mean it. Someone who listens between the lines when you say I'm fine and hears what you haven't voiced yet. Kindness for your moon is about being gently rid without having to perform your pain. You often extend kindness automatically. You pick up on needs before they're spoken. You offer softness to others without thinking. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong just to smooth the waters. But while you're endlessly generous, you're not always self-protective. You may give more than you have, expecting others to care for you the way you intuitively care for them, without ever having to ask. This is where your moon gets quietly hurt. When you extend your tenderness and it's met with impatience or insensitivity, you may not fight back, but something inside you withdraws. You begin to disappear emotionally, sometimes even physically without explanation. You don't ghost out of malice. You ghost because staying feels like exposure, like keeping your heart out in the rain without shelter. What you most need is kindness that expects nothing in return, love that lands softly without forcing you to react. A partner who doesn't demand your gratitude or praise for being decent, but who wants to be decent simply because they know what your heart holds. You don't want someone to fix you. You want someone to protect your gentleness, not because you're fragile, but because it's rare. You're also highly sensitive to tone. The way something is said matters as much, if not more, than what is said. You hear love in wordlessness and cruelty in carelessly thrown jokes. Your nervous system stores emotional weather. So someone who speaks kindly, moves gently, and gives you space when needed without withdrawing love earns your deepest trust. And yet, you rarely voice your own need for kindness. You fear being seen as dramatic, oversensitive, or too soft. You may pretend you're fine while your heart is quietly breaking. Your moon would rather ache in private than risk judgment. But this leads to relationships where you're consistently overextending, silently hoping someone will notice you're running on empty. To deepen this intimacy, start by naming the invisible. Say, I feel most loved through small, thoughtful gestures. Say, sometimes I seem okay when I'm overwhelmed. I need your gentleness more than your solutions. These are not weaknesses. They're roadmaps into your depth. And practice receiving kindness without shrinking. When someone offers care, don't brush it off with, you didn't have to. Let it land. Let their thoughtfulness affirm your worth, not challenge your independence. You don't have to be useful to deserve tenderness. Because when kindness is consistent, intuitive, and patient, your Pisces moon finds what it always dreamed of. Love that doesn't wait for you to break down to show up. A bond that notices before you speak. A sanctuary that lets you be soft without consequence. Not because you earned it, but because you are already enough, exactly as you are, waves and all. Intimacy of growth with Moon in Pisces. Growth for your Pisces moon is less about structure and more about soul evolution. You don't measure intimacy in milestones, timelines, or achievements. You feel it in the invisible. In the shifts of emotional understanding, in the subtle ways two hearts begin to trust each other more deeply. In the moments of silence that suddenly feel safe instead of awkward. You grow through emotional surrender, not performance. Through spiritual deepening, not pressure. Love must feel like water. It needs room to expand. You're not afraid of change, but you fear being rushed through it. You grow best when your process is honored, not optimized. Your emotional evolution doesn't move in straight lines. It loops, flows, dissolves, and reforms. Some days you're ready to be completely open, and the next you may need to retreat inward and tend to something you can't even name. A partner who tries to push you forward too quickly, even with good intentions, will find you vanishing into fog. Growth for you can't be forced. It must be invited. You thrive in relationships that understand emotional regression is not a failure, it's part of the rhythm. You may revisit old wounds unexpectedly, need time to grieve things long past, or feel deeply affected by emotional layers that others might overlook. You want someone who walks beside you with patience, who knows that every spiral has meaning, that every emotional tide carries a lesson, even if it's not obvious yet. Your moon is spiritually wired. You often feel like you're becoming a new version of yourself, not through discipline, but through surrender. When you trust someone deeply, you soften, become porous, absorbent. You begin to let their growth become part of your own, and vice versa. But if they fear your fluidity, or try to anchor you in fixed roles or rigid expectations, your soul begins to close off. You'll offer affection, but not access. You need a relationship that lets you become, over and over again. One that doesn't punish your inconsistencies, or mistake your emotional shifts for instability. You may change your mind, your dreams, your desires, but when love is present, your heart always circles back, more honest, more open. Your growth is fueled by love that doesn't ask you to stay the same, but celebrates each unveiling of your truth. However, you sometimes abandon your own growth to accommodate others. Your compassion runs so deep, you may mute your own needs to keep harmony. You might shrink to avoid conflict, delay your healing to support theirs, or resist outgrowing someone who once made you feel seen, but this halts your soul's natural unfolding. Your moon needs to learn that true intimacy isn't found in self-sacrifice. It's found in mutual becoming. What you long for is a love that doesn't just witness your evolution, but mirrors it. A partner who's also healing, also deepening, also questioning. Someone who doesn't see your sensitivity as something to fix, but as evidence of a vast, complex interior world worth meeting with reverence. You want to feel like you're evolving together, even if you're not always moving at the same pace. To deepen this intimacy, speak from your undercurrents. Say, I change gently, and I need time to understand how. Say, I'm learning how to stay close while I grow. I hope we can find our rhythm inside that. These aren't requests for distance, they're openings for spiritual connection. They help your partner see that your softness is your strength, and that your growth comes through tenderness, not tension. And allow yourself to be seen mid-process. Let someone witness your becoming while it's still messy, fragile, uncertain. You don't need to wait until you've healed to be lovable. You don't need to be perfect to be partnered. Let love meet you where you are, not where you think you should be. Because when growth is nurtured with compassion, not control, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it was made for. Love that flows like water, faith that trusts the tides, and a sacred unfolding where you're allowed to be who you were, who you are, and who you're still becoming, all at once and still beautifully held. Intimacy of activity with moon in Pisces. Activity for your Pisces moon is not just motion, it's meaning woven into presence. You don't engage in tasks for the sake of routine, you're drawn to actions that create emotional atmosphere. For you, intimacy isn't always found in a conversation. It's often found while painting a wall together with music playing in the background, walking silently by the sea, or cooking a slow meal while humming to yourself. You want to feel the soul of the moment, not just move through it. You crave activities that create flow rather than pressure. Structured plans, overly goal-oriented tasks, or tightly timed agendas can feel oppressive. Your moon doesn't respond well to rigidity. It needs emotional flexibility and shared time. A partner who insists on checking things off a list without pausing for breath can inadvertently disconnect from you, even if they're trying to do things together. For you, the how matters more than the what. Shared activity becomes intimate when it's infused with emotional availability. You want to feel like your partner is with you, not just next to you. Folding laundry becomes sweet if there's music and lightness. Running errands can feel connecting if there's space for spontaneous stops or meaningful conversation. You don't need elaborate date nights to feel close. You need presence in the little things, soulfulness in the mundane. You're also highly attuned to energetic harmony during shared activity. If your partner is stressed, irritable, or rushing, your moon absorbs it. Even if they say everything is fine, you feel the dissonance, and it can pull you inward. You may suddenly feel tired or spacey, unsure why. This is why emotionally neutral or nourishing activities mean so much to you. They don't just fill time, they restore your nervous system. At your best, you bring a spirit of magic to ordinary life. You're the one who lights a candle while washing dishes, who sings while walking the dog, who weaves beauty into the everyday. You help your partner slow down, notice the clouds, sip their tea more slowly. But when your sense of rhythm is disregarded, when there's too much doing and not enough being, you begin to drift energetically and emotionally. Sometimes you avoid activity altogether when you're overwhelmed. You retreat into fantasy, dream time, or unstructured solitude. Your moon needs recovery from overstimulation and emotional noise. But when a partner understands this, when they don't guilt you for needing downtime, or better yet, join you in a slow, quiet space, activity becomes a bridge again, a shared pause instead of a lonely silence. You also love collaborating on creative or spiritual tasks, making music, gardening, redecorating a space, creating something beautiful with your hands. These kinds of activities pull you into your heart and invite others into it too. You want shared rituals, not just shared tasks, things that nourish not only your bond, but your inner life. Whether it's a Sunday morning routine or a spontaneous outing, You want shared time to feel soulful. But you don't always speak up when activity feels misaligned. You might go along with plans that exhaust you just to avoid disappointing someone. You may suppress your need for gentler pacing, quieter spaces, or more openness in the moment. This can lead to emotional fatigue and confusion. Why do you feel distant, even though you've spent time together? Because your moon needs energetic harmony, not just proximity. To deepen this intimacy, offer gentle clarity. Say, I feel closest to you when we're doing something simple and present. Or, even the smallest task feels sweet if you're fully there with me. These truths help your partner understand that intimacy doesn't require intensity. It requires intention. Because when shared activity honors your emotional cadence, when it allows room for stillness, imagination, and unspoken connection, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it's always dreamed of. Love that flows in rhythm, time that feels sacred, even in simplicity, and a partnership where doing things together doesn't just get things done, it makes you feel profoundly, quietly held. Intimacy of allowance with moon in Pisces. Allowance for your Pisces moon is everything. It's the safety to be vague, soft, shifting, overwhelmed, or undefined without pressure to explain yourself. You don't always know what you're feeling in the moment. You may float between emotional states without naming them, carry the weight of others' energies without realizing it, or need silence without fully understanding why. True intimacy for you isn't built on emotional clarity. It's built on emotional compassion. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be allowed. You thrive in environments where nothing about you needs to be sharpened or straightened out. You want someone who doesn't demand emotional consistency, who doesn't rush you to make sense, who doesn't make your dreaminess feel like a deficit. Your moon blooms when your messiness is met with warmth, not frustration. You don't mind being held accountable, but you need the space to be in process first. Allowance means being embraced mid-mood, mid-tier, mid-silence, and still being loved. But allowance is not the same as indifference. You can feel the difference between someone giving you space with care and someone withdrawing out of disinterest. Your moon is extremely sensitive to energetic neglect. If you're ignored, dismissed, or made to feel invisible, your soul wilts. You don't just want space, you want empathic space. Space that says, I see you, I trust you, I'm here if you need me. You often extend this kind of unconditional room to others. You accept moods without judgment, dreams without needing evidence, fears without demanding solutions. You allow the people you love to be contradictory, inconsistent, nonlinear. But sometimes, you forget to offer that same grace to yourself. You may shame yourself for needing too much rest, too much softness, too much emotional time. You may push through feelings that need to be felt simply because you're afraid they'll be misunderstood. Your boundaries are often porous, which makes allowance even more essential. When someone tries to overdefine you or force emotional clarity from you, your instinct is to dissolve, to become quiet, to vanish. You don't retreat out of spite. You retreat because your nervous system is flooded. You need a partner who reads your silence as sacred, not suspicious. Someone who says, take your time, I'll be right here. You don't always articulate your emotional shifts. Your moon moves like tides, sensitive to moonlight, to music, to memories that surface without warning. Sometimes you're joyful and then suddenly wistful. You want someone who doesn't interrupt these emotional waves, but sits beside them, who knows how to float with you instead of trying to steer. And yet, because you're so empathic, you often forget to ask for the very allowance you give. You shapeshift to stay lovable, stretch yourself to accommodate others, and often internalize the belief that your needs are too much or too confusing. This is where resentment or deep sadness can creep in. When you've given endless room to others, but haven't been given even a corner of that grace in return. To deepen this intimacy, speak your truth gently but clearly. Say, sometimes I don't know what I feel until much later. I need space to figure it out. Or, when I'm quiet, I'm not pulling away. I'm just recharging in my own emotional language. These small truths give your partner a map to love you more fully. And give yourself permission to take up emotional space without a plan. To cry without explaining. To daydream without apologizing. To not always be helpful, soothing, or wise. You don't have to transcend your own needs in order to be loved. Because when allowance becomes not an absence of pressure, but a presence of compassion, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it longs for. Love that doesn't ask you to be clear, stable, or solved. A love that flows with your tides, that trusts your silences, and that stays with you not because you've earned it, but because you are allowed to simply be. Intimacy of giving with moon in Pisces. Giving for your Pisces moon is instinctual. It flows from you like breath. You offer your time, your attention, your energy, your empathy without keeping score. You sense where healing is needed before it's spoken. You bring tea to someone who didn't say they were sad. You say, "I'm here," when you feel someone's spirit slipping. You don't give to be noticed. You give because it's your nature. For you, love is not a transaction, it's a tide. You give not only what's asked, but what's felt. You can overextend yourself without realizing it, taking on the emotional pain of others as if it's your own. Your moon is porous. When someone near you aches, you may absorb it without boundaries. You give your light even when yours is fading. And while this generosity is beautiful, it can also drain you deeply if not balanced with reciprocation and rest. You often believe love means dissolving your needs for the sake of the other person. You might sacrifice your own comfort, time, or energy without hesitation, especially if the other person seems vulnerable or lost. But over time, this unchecked giving can leave you emotionally ghost-like, present in body but vanishing in spirit. You begin to feel invisible, and yet can't find the words to say, "I need too." You rarely ask for anything in return. You want your giving to remain unconditional, untouched by expectation. But in truth, you do long to be seen, to be appreciated, to be cared for in the quiet, tender way you care for others. You just don't always know how to receive it. So instead, you give more, hoping someone will notice what you need by the shape of what you offer. When someone finally does give to you, and gives well, it startles you. You may pull away at first, not out of rejection, but because your moon doesn't always know how to let love flow toward you. It takes time to believe that you're allowed to be held, that you don't have to earn every kind act with 10 of your own. But when you do begin to trust it, your heart softens in ways that even surprise you. You're also creative in how you give. Your love shows up in art, music, dreams, poems, or simple acts of daily grace. You give with imagination, with a kind of spiritual generosity that wants to elevate someone's soul, not just support their body. You want to inspire the person you love, to remind them of their beauty even when they've forgotten it themselves. Your love is devotional, but it must not become self-erasing. Sometimes, when your giving goes unnoticed or unappreciated, you internalize it as personal failure. You might think, "I wasn't enough," instead of recognizing they weren't attuned. This can make you give even harder, stretching yourself thinner, hoping that more love will fix the gap. But intimacy for your moon isn't about martyrdom. It's about mutual grace. You deserve to give without disappearing. To deepen this intimacy, speak from your softness. Say, "I love deeply, and sometimes I forget to hold anything back." Say, "When I give, it's because I see something sacred in you, but I need reminders that I matter too." These aren't requests for repayment. They're invitations for your love to be met with consciousness, not just consumption. And practice giving from fullness, not depletion. Let your love flow when you feel anchored, not when you feel invisible. Let someone give to you without guilt. Let your heart rest without proving its worth through labor. Because when giving becomes a shared river, not just a single current flowing outward, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it was made for. Love that gives back, gently and freely. A connection that doesn't require you to shrink to be cherished. A rhythm of care where your devotion is not just offered, but held, reflected, and returned, drop for drop, heart for heart. Intimacy of receiving with moon in Pisces. Receiving for your Pisces moon is both your deepest desire and your most elusive challenge. You long to be held, nurtured, seen without having to explain yourself. You want to be understood in the places where you haven't yet found words. But when love arrives, clean, direct, and generous, you often struggle to let it fully land. Not because you don't want it, but because some part of you doubts you're meant to be cared for without first dissolving into someone else's need. You're far more comfortable giving. Giving feels safe, purposeful, and familiar. You know how to pour warmth into others, how to listen without interrupting, how to sacrifice gently and invisibly. But receiving requires stillness. It asks you to stop doing and simply be. And that moment, where your hands are open but not offering, can stir discomfort, even fear. What if the love disappears once you stop trying? Your moon has absorbed so much over time. Other people's pain, their hopes, their projections. You've often been the emotional sponge in your relationships, taking on burdens no one asked you to carry. So when someone turns to you with pure intention, no strings, no agenda, just care, it can feel foreign. Your instinct may be to minimize your need or deflect with softness. I'm okay. You didn't have to. I'm just tired. These are your protective spells. Yet you yearn to be received the way you receive others. Intuitively, patiently, reverently. You want someone to look at you and see the layers of weariness you've hidden under compassion. You want someone to hold your ache without naming it, to sense your overwhelm without demanding you explain. You don't need fixing, you need witnessing. You want someone who doesn't turn away when your soul shows through your eyes. The paradox is this: you often test love by pretending you don't need it. You pull back emotionally when you're most fragile, hoping someone will cross the bridge and meet you anyway. It's not manipulation, it's a prayer. But not everyone speaks this language of longing. And when no one comes, you confirm your fear, that to receive is to risk disappointment. You also carry old guilt around needing anything at all. Perhaps you were praised for being easy, undemanding, low maintenance. Perhaps you learned that being selfless kept things peaceful. But true intimacy doesn't blossom in one-directional giving. It blossoms in mutual vulnerability. And when you begin to accept that your needs are not burdens, but sacred invitations, you allow love to root deeper than ever before. Receiving doesn't always look like being held while you cry. Sometimes it's letting someone pour your tea, rub your shoulders, buy your favorite snack, or sit beside you in silence. These small acts are acts of recognition. They say, I see you, even when you're quiet. I care, even when you don't ask. But in order to feel them, you must stay present inside your body. Let the warmth land. To deepen this intimacy, speak your hesitation. Say, it's hard for me to accept help, but I'm learning. Say, when I go quiet, it doesn't mean I don't want love. It means I'm afraid to need it. These truths don't make you weak. They make you reachable. They let someone meet you where you've so often stood alone, and receive with your whole self. Let their love enter your hands, your breath, your spine. Let their words rest on your chest. Don't rush to reciprocate. Just feel. You don't owe a perfect emotional response in return. You don't need to explain why the gift matters. Let it be enough that it does. Because when receiving becomes safe, not because you've earned it, but because you exist, your Pisces moon finds the intimacy it's been dreaming of. Love that doesn't demand performance, doesn't expect perfection, doesn't vanish when you're quiet. A love that enters gently, stays softly, and reminds you, you are worthy of care, not because of how well you love, but simply because you're here.